Tommy, I'm so glad that we're doing this. It's so good to have you on the Jewelry Business Academy podcast. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, very excited to be here.
Oh, I'm excited to chat to you. And it's funny because we were just on the JBA coaching call. So I was like, I think I'm losing
Yeah.
my voice, but it'll be okay. And I'm really excited to chat to you a little bit about your story in building your jewelry brand, Nabiva. So you're obviously based in BC, Canada, and this is an extra special episode as you've been a part of the Jewelry Business Academy, kind of like close to from the start of your business, kind of for the last couple of months. And so I've been working with you. I know you and your business pretty well. And I know your story is going to really inspire a lot of our listeners. So before we dive in, do you want to go ahead and just introduce yourself to our listeners and share a little bit of your background and how you kind of got to where you are today?
I'm Tommy, as Robin said, and I'm currently in school right now. So I'm doing accounting and management information systems. And I first had my vision for Nabiva during the pandemic. And it was where I felt that mental health was really something that we should put more focus into because of how isolating it was during that time. So that's why right now with Nabiva, I curate a unique, resilience-inspired jewelry to combine that mindfulness and resilience into our collections. Um, yeah, that's
I love
mhm,
that so much. And,
mhm,
I think a lot of people listening are going to resonate with the mental health struggles during the pandemic because that was no joke. Like I know for myself as well, like it was a really tough time and it's really hard to keep moving through life when things are so challenging, especially when you have those mental health challenges or you're dealing with that. And I think even right now with everything going on in the world, I know there's a lot of business owners really struggling to even show up in their business because they're like, what's the point? It feels like
mhm.
everything's kind of burning to the ground. And it's a really hard space to build a business from when you're struggling. So I'd love to know, like, what would be like one piece of advice that's really helped you when you were in a season where you were struggling that you would give to another business owner who's just struggling to show up in their business, um, just in terms of like mental health and all of that.
Yeah, like the biggest advice really would be to find your community, like find a friend, find a family member, find someone to really um, just be there as like your kind of like your rock, right? Because it's really hard to build a business or even go through different stages of your life without that sort of community. And I've really found that with the JBA because I have such an amazing group of business buddies that I talk to on a weekly basis. And it really just helps guide you. So with things like uh, different aspects of your business where you're like, oh, I should really be focusing on this. But then I'm being also dragged by other smaller tasks that you could really do at another time. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, I totally get that. And I agree. Finding your community is so key, especially when you're building a business and stuff, especially when you're struggling. And it's funny because I was talking to a client about this earlier today, actually. I think you were on the call as well, Tommy. And we are just
Mhm.
talking about when you're going through a season where you're struggling, the what most people do is they isolate themselves. And when you isolate themselves yourself, it just makes it so much harder. And it's so hard when you're feeling down and you're feeling low to go out there and show up and find that community and like actually take up space and connect with people. But that is what's going to have a huge impact on helping you get that energy back, helping you get that
Mhm.
hope back, helping you like want to continue showing up in your business. But I do want
Mhm.
to touch on something, Tommy, because
Yeah.
I know, obviously, so you shared at the beginning, you're still a student, you are super, super busy. But you're building this business while you're still studying. And, I know we have a lot of listeners who are maybe in high school and about to go into university, but at the back of their mind, they're like, but I'd also love a business, but like, how am I going to juggle it? Because I have such limited time. What's your experience been of building your business while you're still a student?
Yeah, firstly, I want to say it's not easy.
Yeah.
It might look easy from an outsider viewpoint, but there was a lot of sacrifices. So I had to sacrifice on a lot of volunteering I wanted to do, had to sacrifice on some of my hobbies that I had to do. But really, it was to build this community, to build my business. It really did take a lot of work. So for students, especially when you do have that exam time, it may feel like, oh, but I have to focus on my business because I have events. But really, it is still your studies that really matter. And like for me, with my accounting background, just trying to find out ways that you can incorporate your coursework or even insights from your teachers or your professors and even some of your classmates into some of the work that you're doing in your business. It just really helps um, with um,
Learning.
yeah, with learning in
Mm.
general. And it's just like that lifelong learning thing, right? So as you go through different stages of your career and business, just trying to find ways to incorporate that with each other, it really helps. Um, but yeah, it's been good. It's good.
Yeah, I'm so
Mhm.
impressed at how you're juggling things. And I know we have another client who's been on the podcast as well before, who's also building her business while she's in college. And it's no joke because, like, you guys are busier than people who have a normal full-time job. Like, it is busy, busy, busy. But I think what you shared about, like, and there's an element of sacrifice. And that's what some people fail to recognize. If you're going to build a business, there is an element of sacrifice for the first year or two, and it's different for everybody. That sacrifice looks different for everybody. But not resenting it and recognizing, like, hey, this is an important business for me because of this. Like, I really want that freedom. I want this. And I know that I have to put in the work at the beginning to actually reap those rewards. And because that's important to me, I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit here. And these are the elements I'm willing to sacrifice. And I feel good about that. But I'm glad that you did bring that up, because I think some people think, from when they look at people's social media of business owners, they're like, oh, well, they're thriving on everything. They're getting everything they want. Well, no, everyone that's successful in business had a period where they had to sacrifice in some ways in their life. Whether it's like not going out as much with their friends, not doing as much
Mhm.
volunteering, or like, really just drilling into their business, like not getting distracted and saying yes to everything outside that they normally would have, and just being like, no, this is my priority. My business is my priority. My future is my priority for me. And I think when you talk about like how you're able to even implement some of the things that you're learning in class into your business, I think that's powerful, because that is one of the most powerful ways of learning, is implementation and actually doing it. And so I love hearing that, Tommy. So let's touch
Mhm.
a little bit, like, I know you've been in the Jewelry Business Academy for a couple of months and we're still working together. We still have a long way to go, but
Yeah.
I'd love if you could briefly share your experience of being in the program. So before we even talk about the program, let's like backtrack a couple of months to
Mhm.
before we started working together. Do you remember how you were feeling before we started working together? What sort of challenges were you facing at that stage where you're like, yeah, you know what, I need to sign up for some support here?
Yeah, before I joined the academy, I felt that I was just overloaded with information. Like it was so much that it was so stressful because like you can watch the YouTube videos, you can watch the TikToks, you can listen to all the podcasts, but there was just so much advice that contradicted each other. Like some people focused on the algorithm, some people focused on email marketing. It was just such a difficult time to really see what really matters in building a business, and what steps that you should be taking in order to actually um, get the goals that you're looking to achieve. So it's like those daily tasks that you can do, those weekly tasks, especially with my coursework. I really had to nail down exactly what I had to do on a daily basis, Because if I didn't, it was just very easy to go on to like the small things that really wouldn't have made the sales or the difference in progressing my business to where I want it to be.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was just it was a struggle of like not knowing which actions to take because there was just so many things that I could have done. Like there's just so many options, so much advice that it kind of like stopped me in my tracks. Like I just didn't know how to move forward. So that's when I realized, okay, maybe um, I need some help here. Yeah.
Yeah. You know
Mhm.
what? I love that you shared that because you're definitely not alone in going through that experience. I think there's obviously in any industry an overwhelming amount of information out there. We have Google, we have TikTok, Instagram, we have an overwhelming amount of information. So often the problem is not the information, it's the focus. It's not having focus and not knowing what to implement and how to do it effectively. And so it's so easy as new business owners who are like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start this business. I'm excited about it. I'm passionate. I'm going to go read all the information and do this properly. Well, there's so many strategies out there. There's so much information. And it's like,
Mhm.
okay, well, now what do I do? And what happens is because you then suddenly have to make all these decisions and you've never done this before, you start making decisions, but you get stuck in the cycle of indecision and inaction in your mind because we can only make so many decisions without like fatiguing ourselves. I talk about like fatiguing our customers with too much choice, but we can fatigue
Yeah.
ourselves as business owners as well. So, I think those feelings of overwhelm and stuff, it comes from like, obviously, as you said, having way too much decision making and thinking to have to do in your business. So yeah, I'm so glad that you came in. And how are you feeling now?
Mhm.
So you've been in a couple of months, how are you
Yeah.
feeling after the first few months of being in your business? Keep in mind, we're still in the very early stages. And I was
Yeah.
like, Tommy, you need to come on the podcast because I know you're
Yes.
going to do big things and I want you back on in a couple of months' time. So we need you at the early stages.
Yeah, so right now I'm actually feeling just so much better, like the mental clarity that it has in joining the academy, especially in the way that it's structured. I love that there's different modules, different sections that I can complete. I can always go through them where I want to start, but the way that it's structured, I'm able to know exactly which module I need to do next. And that really helps me with planning my days, planning my weeks, planning my upcoming months. And just to have that framework really just that mental clarity that
Mm,
you don't really need to worry about like should I do this next? Should I do that next? On top of other stressors like exams and tests and like things in your personal life. Like it can get a lot. So just having these strategies in place
mm.
really help to move me forward. And I just feel yeah, I feel a lot better. Feel a lot better.
Oh, I'm so happy
Mhm.
to hear that. And I think that mental clarity part is such an underrated like value thing. Having mental clarity is huge. Being able to just like focus on the right tasks, it helps you move through things so much quicker. It takes that stress away. So I'm so happy to hear that. And I'd love to know what is one of the biggest lessons that you've learned since joining the academy?
The biggest lesson I would say is to just go for it. I was so shy at like doing markets. I don't even think I would have done a market this year if it wasn't for this group because I deal with social anxiety, so it's really hard for me to talk to people, especially in person. So just doing it anyways, putting yourself out there taking up space is really what I've learned and what I've seen with the community because we have such a supporting community. Um, and yeah, it doesn't feel like a challenge against each other. It's really just about uplifting each other. And I really feel that, especially in our Facebook group and especially in our group calls. So yeah,
Mm.
that's the biggest takeaway for me.
Yeah, you know what? I love that you shared that because as I'm talking to you now, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember you had like really strong social anxiety when we first started working together, and I completely forgot about it because you're such a
Yeah.
natural on camera now, and we're like live and recording a podcast and you're like just chatting away. I completely forgot
Mhm.
about that. So, I meet a lot of people who will say to me, oh, I really want to do that, but like I can't, like my nervous system can't handle like showing up and doing that. And like I have social anxiety. That's just the way I am. And I always will be. What would your advice be to them? Like, what do you wish someone had told you, like when you were in that stage where you felt like that social anxiety was really holding you and your business back?
Um, I would still give the same advice. It's just like take up space because
Mm,
it really is the baby steps. Like you don't have to do like a massive 700 people market, right? You can also go to like the smaller farmers market. You can start with posting on your Instagram maybe once a week instead of every day. Like really taking the baby steps to get you there because I really think that having the exposure, the consistent exposure just really helps you get out of that mindset and that bubble that you kind of put yourself in. And
mm.
it really helps, especially for your business, because you will have to talk to a lot of people. It's inevitable. So yeah, just taking that first steps, like those baby
Mm.
steps, really help propel you forward.
Yeah, that is such good advice. And I think for anyone listening who's like, well, I'm feeling really stuck, like find whatever that step would be and break it down into even smaller steps and just like break it down into steps that are doable, and like doing a post, showing up on social media, whatever that looks like for you. And remember that that confidence comes from showing up despite the fear. It comes from
Mhm.
showing up despite the fear again and again and again and again until you build this stack of evidence that, hey, I'm showing up
Mhm.
and I'm still alive. I'm showing up and
Mhm.
nothing bad's happened to me. And I'm showing up and I'm feeling more connected to my community. So yeah, I'm so glad that you have really just gone all in on that. To be honest,
Mhm.
Tommy, you've just gone all in on your business, and it's just wonderful
Mhm.
to see. Like you've really taken it so seriously, and it shows, like it definitely shows. So what has been one of your favorite parts of being a part of the Jewelry Business Academy?
Yeah, my favorite parts, it would really just be to connect with the community. Like whenever I have a question, I know that I can just post it in our group chat, or I can message some of our other JBA members, like our biz buddies. And it's really just knowing that you have people who are rooting for you, who have people who are pushing you as well. Like they're not just gonna say, "Oh yeah, you don't have to post. It's okay. Don't post at all." Like no, they're gonna tell you that yeah, you need to post. It's gonna be hard, but it's just the work that you need to do. So it's really that the community. It really helps, and yeah, the community.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we have a pretty special community, I will say. Like you guys are incredible and so supportive and uplifting of one another. Like
Mhm.
I just love seeing it so much. So tell us a little bit about like the wins that you've had, big or small, and the wins that you've celebrated since joining the academy.
Yeah, so the first ever market that I did actually, I made over $2,000 my first market, and I
That's
almost never
incredible.
went. I almost never went if it wasn't for your advice, especially your advice with like holding something, like holding a cup, holding
Yeah.
like anything really to really help ground me. I thought that really helped me with my jitters and my nerves and being able to talk to people. And yeah, just doing more events. Like events are starting to get so much more easier. I feel less afraid to apply for these events and to really just get myself out there. Um, yeah, I think that would be my biggest win because I was about to just stay stuck on online and not do any in-person events at all. But the in-person events are really fun. I get to meet people in my community. I get to have a good time with my friends. So yeah, that's my biggest win.
Yeah, that's a pretty epic win because let me tell you, a lot of people's first events is not that successful. And you really, I think we had a call like a few weeks or something before that. And like you
Yeah.
really just went and like took action and like felt the fear, did it anyway, and like just went all in. So I'm
Hmm.
so I'm so glad that you've kind of just embraced that side of it. And how do you feel more connected to your community and all of that through these events, would you
Yeah,
say?
definitely. I'm sure some of them might watch us soon. But yeah, it's just like being able to connect with them even after the event. So like on Instagram, just being able to see their posts. And
Mm.
then some of them still message me. So yeah, it's been really nice.
Oh,
Mm.
amazing. So tell me, like, I'd love to know what would you say has been the biggest lesson that you've learned around selling and marketing your jewelry since you've been in the program? Like, what would you say, like, has been the biggest lessons you've learned around that?
Yeah, the biggest lesson, I'm still working on this, but the biggest one would be just consistency. So showing up every day, it really makes a difference. And not to be afraid of posting the same thing over and over again, because like you've said before, like people will forget about these things in like a few days or even a week,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So not being afraid to send repeat emails, send repeat pictures to remind people of the amazing things that you have going on, like the events that you've got going on, the pieces that you have. And yeah, just and each day really helps connect you with your community. So you don't have to be perfect. Yeah.
That's such great advice. And yeah, I'm so glad that you did share that because I think that consistency is so big. Do you want to know? Like, I'll just share this because everyone's on live listening anyway.
Yeah.
But like, I had a business owner say to me a few weeks ago, I posted every day for 12 days and I didn't see anything. And I'm like, 12 days? Like when you're getting started, that's nothing. That consistency over 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, 6 months, that consistency in showing up is so crucial. So yeah, I'm so glad that you shared that. So Tommy, I'd love to know what would your advice be to somebody who's listening to this who is in the same place you were 5 or 6 months ago when you were just getting started, when you were feeling overwhelmed with all the information out there, but you were like determined to do this on your own and you're getting all the information and you're researching everything, but you were struggling to actually take action. What would your advice be to someone who's in that situation and who knows they need more clarity and focus and structure and support and accountability in moving their business forward and bringing their dreams to life, but they feel anxious about making that investment in themselves and their business?
Yeah, so my biggest advice would really be to find that person, like find a mentor, find someone who can help you with that process because it really helps cut out a lot of the steps of like thinking about what you have to do, right? It- um, I'm losing my words, sorry.
That's
But like
okay.
in class, like we always talk about how important incubators are, these accelerators are for businesses, how important mentors are, and having a community. So just having that community, having someone to guide you, having people to guide you, really helps, and it really helped my business for sure. And especially with accountability, having someone who can give you that accountability to really help get you there because sometimes you're just gonna have some bad days. And you really need someone to just be a little bit more stern with you. And yeah, that accountability really does make a difference. So yeah, that would be
Mm.
my biggest advice.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. That accountability is so key because as business
Mhm.
owners, especially jewelry business owners, you have like 21 different roles when you break them down. And it's a lot to hold yourself accountable. And it's funny because I've had women come to me who like are building their business, but they're like, I used to work in the corporate world and I was the person who got stuff done. And now that I'm a business owner, I just can't seem to do it. And I don't understand
Yeah.
what's happening. And it's because like you used to have managers and other people you're reporting to. And it's like, it's very hard to self-motivate all the time. And having somebody who's checking in and being
Yeah.
like, what you doing? Are we, what's happening here? Let's keep
Yeah.
going. Makes a difference for sure. So tell me, is
Yeah.
there any other, I know we're at time. Do you have 5 more minutes?
Yes, yes.
Perfect. Are there any other lessons that you've learned from our coaching together that you think some would be helpful for someone who's listening to this?
Lessons. There's just so many. It's
Give us one. Give us
um
one.
yeah. Let me see here.
I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, I guess. Um
You know what? Let's talk about the
Yeah.
collections because do you remember when you joined your
Yes.
collection? Let's talk a little
Yes.
bit about lessons learned around collections.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so collections, I first started with almost 170 pieces. So it was a lot. Like it was a lot to track in terms of inventory. It was a lot to make descriptions. It was a lot to like just even have at the markets because it was just like one tiny slot with one piece. And it was like, oh no, can't handle this anymore. So really making sure that you have your main collections really helps to um, on the back end as well as just your mental clarity, right? So, um, and these are the pieces that people will always come back to as well because these are ones that you are able to push out on your Instagram and your emails a lot easier. So, yeah, it's just making sure that you don't start off too big.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know. I think it's hard because you have big dreams, obviously, but
Yeah,
but you also had big inventory, and I was like,
yeah,
oh my gosh, Tommy,
yeah,
let's streamline a little bit. We can get there at one day, but like we don't start there. So yeah,
yeah.
I think that's really good advice for anyone. So if you're getting started, like, and you're listening to this, don't try and have all the inventory and all these designs. Like, start small, start simple, and you can
Yeah.
build to that over time. Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to share, Tommy? Well,
Anything else?
well, you've got the mic.
Yeah, for all the students out there, the young adults, or people who've just been thinking about starting a business but haven't taken the action yet, just again, like just start it because you never know where it'll take you.
Mm,
And it's probably one of the my favorite um, things that I've ever done really is to just dive into this entrepreneur space because the amount of personal growth that you have as well as you go through the motions of owning a jewelry business or whatever you want to pursue, it can really change your life. So yeah, take
mm.
that action.
I love that
Mhm.
advice so much because I also started my business like journey when I was in my 20s. And I can tell you, like, you learn so much about yourself and about life and about business by building a business. Like, it's one
Mhm.
of the best things you can do. And I think your 20s are the best time to do it because you have no mortgage, you have no kids, you have so much freedom and so much time. And it's like such a low risk thing. If it doesn't work out, you can go into the corporate world. The corporate world's always hiring. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But having that freedom and bravery and courage to build your business in your 20s, it's so much easier in some ways because I see women who are in their 50s and 60s who are like, well, I've been thinking about this for 10 years, but I just need some more time to think about it because and it's like in your 20s, you don't really think. You're like, I want to do this, let's go do it. And it makes it easier to build momentum for sure. And having that
Mhm.
courage, like to go out and do it. And then the growth that you go through, it's pretty incredible. So I love that.
Mhm.
Tommy, this has been such a fun little conversation. I'm looking forward to bringing you back on in a couple of months to hear
Yes.
the updates, hear the growth. And
Yes.
you
Yes.
also have your own podcast now, which is
Mhm.
exciting. So, I know there's definitely going to be people listening who are going to want to connect with you on your journey. So, where can our listeners find you and how can they support you?
Yeah, you can reach out to me at nabiva.com and our Instagram is at nabiva.com. So without the dot. Yeah.
Perfect. So, we'll link those in the show notes. Do you want to link your podcast?
It's not out yet. So
Okay, well, we'll link
yeah.
it when it's ready. You'll find it on
Yeah.
his Instagram. That's fine. This has been so much fun, Tommy. Thank you again so much for joining me and sharing your lessons learned so openly with all of our listeners.
Yeah. It's fun to be here.
Okay.